That didn't last long. The Democrats are fighting again. AOC sounding like a salty socialist after Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema ditched the Democratic Party and registered as an independent. Not once in this long soliloquy does Sinema offer a single concrete value or policy she believes in. She lays out no goals for Arizonans, no vision, no commitments. It's no health care, just vibes for Senate. People deserve more. Grateful this race and nomination has opened up. And good old Bernie Sanders sounds like he'll sick the liberal dogs on Sinema with this threat. Watch.
I support progressive candidates all over this country, people who have the guts to take on powerful special interests. I don't know what's going to be happening in Arizona. We'll see who they nominate, but certainly that's something I will take a hard look at.
But perhaps what ticks lefties off the most is that Sinema can't be controlled. And she says stuff like this.
I can tell you unequivocally that the federal government has failed its duty in the last 40 years.
Not just Democrats.
It's just everyone. The federal government has failed here.
But he ran in 2020 and you supported him.
Yes, I did. I felt at the time he was the best candidate running for president.
So you really are going to view the 2024 election as an independent? Like you are not automatically going to go with the Democratic candidate. You're going to see which one you prefer.
Jake, that's how I view everything.
So this is stirring up a lot of debate in Democrat circles.
There's nothing we like more than intramural fighting on the Democratic side. Can we talk about Bernie Sanders for just a second? This is a guy who refuses to declare himself as a Democrat. He himself calls himself an independent. So what in the heck is he complaining about? It drives me nuts. And also, AOC, you guys said nothing when the left was chasing her into the bathroom.
Yeah.
You chased her out of the party, and now you're going to complain about it? Are you insane? And also, Kyrsten Sinema is very smart. I think she wants to stay in the Senate. And she knows that to stay in the Senate, she had to be very clever. Because Arizona has shown us these past two elections that they want somebody like her. They're willing to vote for someone like her. They don't want someone on the far left, and they don't want someone on the far right. So now what's the Democrats going to do? She votes with the Democrats 95% of the time. Do you want the votes, or do you want the label that she's a Democrat?
Oh, so you're saying if they nominate a crazy left-winger to primary her, they'll go down in flames and you'll elect a Republican senator?
Yes. Now, the Republicans have to be smart, too, because who are they going to nominate? So now you could actually have a really interesting policy-oriented contest in Arizona. It is possible.
Very good, Dana. So, Greg, what do you think about Kyrsten?
Very interesting, provocative person. I believe she once dated Keith Olbermann.
You're kidding me.
I would not lie about something so disgusting. But every woman is allowed one mistake in their dating life. And if it wasn't the case, yes, I would be very lonely if that wasn't the case. But I like how feminists are always championing women who march to the beat of their own drum, who are fiercely independent, until you veer off the ideological reservation. Because when you compare AOC to like Sinema, who gets the glossy photo shoots? Who goes to the galas? It's the girl who obeys. It's not Sinema. It's AOC. It's great. I mean, I think that if a good piece of advice if you're at the workplace, Jesse, you should always be the Kyrsten Sinema of your place of work. People have to persuade you. You don't have to persuade anybody. She's worth 20 AOCs, right? You know what AOC's going to do. You don't have to persuade her. We got her. That's an easy vote. But with Kyrsten Sinema, you got to spend a lot of time talking to her. You got to spend a lot of time talking to Manchin. You got to spend a lot of time talking to Rand Paul. All the people that are kind of on the edge are the people that demand the most attention. So you should always be that wherever you are.
Did she become a bisexual after dating Keith Olbermann?
Who wouldn't?
Jesse.
God. As a Democrat, Harold, this is happening on your turf. What are we missing here?
Well, I think you just take people at their words. I listened to Kyrsten Sinema there, and she said 40 years of failure, and she's right. Two, I listened to Bernie Sanders, and I listened to my pal Dana Perino, I call DP, say that, look, he's an independent, he's not a Democrat. You're right, he's not a Democrat like I grew up with. I think of Democrats in the vein of Bobby Kennedy and Sam Nunn and Bill Clinton. The Democrats and my father who inspired me the most in my politics and Democratic politics. And frankly, when you talk about progressives have lost. Republicans, you talk about division now, the real division. I don't know if Kevin McCarthy is going to be Speaker and what's going to happen with Donald Trump, but maybe we'll cover that. But there's no doubt there's division within our party. But guess what? It's the wing of the party that's closer to Sinema that's winning. If you all nailed it right about Arizona, if she stayed in the Democratic Party, she would likely face a progressive challenge. And who knows, she may or may not win that primary. But one thing is for certain, the progressive is at a bigger disadvantage running in that race than she is as an independent. So we shall see. I think she's smart. I think she's clever. And I think she's right on the border. And hopefully not only do Democrats listen to her, I hope that Republicans listen to her as well.
Do you think you'll ever see someone like a Manchin or a
I thought you were asking
Sinema-
me a second question.
No follow-ups. Switching parties completely, not just going independent, but actually moving to the Republican side?
You know, I think it depends. I think that what we're seeing with the Democratic Party is what the essence of the party is, and that is that they are totalitarian. If you decide, that you're gonna be an independent, and even if you're gonna vote with us 96% of the time, we're going to tear you up. We're going to primary you. We're going to try to make sure that you lose. And that's the difference. I mean, if you don't buy into what they're doing, then you shouldn't be a senator at all. And that's what I think people should be concerned about. I think let me just finish.
Yes,
I think she's a very strong woman. I think she's a very respectable woman. I saw what she went through when she was chased into bathrooms, when she was chased in and out of buildings. I mean, that is a woman who is made of steel. And if I were to vote for someone, she is the kind of candidate, I don't care if you're male or female, that I would vote for, because she does have a moral core. She does stand for what she believes in. She's not one of these people who go to Washington and one hand washes the other. I'm on this team. That's it. I'm going to cheerlead for this team. She's like, I have people in Arizona that I have to worry about. There are towns in Arizona that are being overrun. The federal government. I haven't heard a Democrat talk about the failure of the federal government in 30 years. All right? And she's talking about it. I mean, she is, as far as I'm concerned, a very, I think she's a very inspiring woman.
Imagine if someone chased the judge into the bathroom.
I'd be chasing them out.
Yeah.
But you know, the good thing about the Democrats, Schumer hadn't kicked her out of the party. She's still on the committees and also, and you know
That
what you
was
just
nice
said?
of him.
That's
He's a
why
good guy, huh,
She did it because
Schumer?
of what you said, Judge. I thought you were excellent.
Oh, excellent.
Oh, thanks.
All right.
Oh, we're friends again.
Yeah. Until the next segment.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.